everybody, Nancy here from American Pet Professionals. Happy Tuesday and welcome to our next episode of our show, Digging into the Pet Industry, where every week we bring you new guests from the pet industry where you can learn more about their pet business, their animal rescue, or their nonprofit organization. And we are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you're listening, it's a pre-recorded podcast with the same name. So wherever you're watching or listening from, thank you so much for being here. Today, I'm so thrilled to bring you our next guest, APP member Mary Tan of Whisker Media. Hey, Mary.
Hello, how are you, Nancy?
I'm so happy to see you. Thank you so much for being here today.
I am so excited. I just think what you do in American Pet Professionals is just a wonderful networking group. And
Aw,
everybody in the pet industry, you need to join this group.
yay. Thank you for saying that. You
Absolutely.
was not prompted. I really appreciate it. So, Mary, here on Digging into the Pet Industry, we love to dig right in and get started. So, you and I have similar backgrounds in media, which when I first met you, I was like so excited because we had so many similar backgrounds. I would love to start with your career journey. You didn't start in the pet industry, did you?
No, I didn't start in the pet industry. And, it's interesting because I didn't have pets growing up either, which is another story.
Yeah.
Um, so, kind of going backwards, um, my parents were immigrants and they're Asian, they're from Indonesia, and they never were into pets. And as a
Yeah.
child, I was told, oh no, pets are a lot of work. We don't need them. We have you.
Yeah.
Um,
Right, right. I
yeah,
can see that, but
exactly. And then what happened was in college, my sister got a cat. Now, my sister had always really, really wanted a cat.
oh,
And so, of course, what does she do when she goes to college? She went and got a cat. And then I remember visiting her. She went to Stanford, and I went my senior year of high school to go visit her because I was looking at college campuses, and I met her kitty cat, and that just
oh,
changed things. And I loved animals.
yeah.
So then fast forward, I went to college at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Um, didn't think about getting a pet until, I thought after I graduate, I'm definitely going to get a cat. And so I started out in college actually as a classical musician. I was a music
Oh,
major.
wow.
And I'd always thought, oh, want to be a classical flautist in a major symphony. Well, you know how many jobs there are in that? There's like 8 or 10 in the whole world.
Right. Oh,
Mm.
wow. Yeah, yeah. Limited for sure.
Exactly. And then my senior year of college, I met a young man who was a local TV reporter at the CBS station in Madison. I ended up interning at the station. And then my senior year, I decided, you know what, I really want to do journalism.
Mhm.
Um, but I was already a senior about to graduate. So what I ended up doing was I ended up going to the University of Minnesota, thinking I was going to go get a master's in journalism. But what happened was I started going to school, and then I got a fellowship with the Radio Television News Directors Association to
Wow.
move to New York to do. It was basically a longer internship at New York
Mhm.
One, which you
Okay.
probably know.
Yeah, of course.
I started, and
Yeah.
it was the first media outlet to do the one man banding, to be the multimedia journalist, which is really common now.
Yeah.
But back then, TV crews were like, you had a sound guy and a lighting guy and a camera guy. And so back then it was like a one man band. So I remember like I moved out there. I ended up turning my degree at the University of Minnesota into a second bachelor's degree so I could finish sooner because I just wanted to get
Get
into,
started.
yeah, I wanted to get into the news industry. Um, Ended up could have stayed in New York as more of a behind the scenes person, but I really wanted to be on camera. I wanted to be a reporter.
Yeah.
At that time, it was impossible. You couldn't just start in New York City, which was like the world's largest market.
I understand it's super, super competitive. I was in that race. It was crazy. Not as a
Yes.
reporter, but on the back end as a producer. It was nuts.
Yes, exactly. So I went back to my basically the a really small TV market, Duluth, Minnesota, which is close to my hometown in northern Wisconsin. So it was perfect. I started there, um, went from Duluth back to Madison, Wisconsin. And it was about a year in each market because in TV you just move to get ahead. Your goal is to
Yep.
get to a bigger and bigger market.
Yeah.
And went from Madison to Las Vegas, Las Vegas to Atlanta. And then in Atlanta, I got divorced, and my ex was working at the same station. So I decided I wanted to go to a larger market closer to home. So that was here in Minneapolis. So that's how I ended up here in Minneapolis during my
I
news
feel
career.
like every reporter has that roundabout story.
Yeah,
Like they've done in so many markets. Anybody that's been in TV, it's like, where did you start? And then you had like 15 jobs to where you got next. It's crazy.
exactly. It was crazy. And you're like living for a year or two in one city and then moving on. So I was kind
Yeah.
I was kind of nomadic back then. But then I finally came back to the Twin Cities, and during my whole career, I was always a crime reporter. I was
Oh
hard
wow.
news. I was always like more investigative stuff. I
Wow.
never got to do any of the features, and so my second TV job is when I finally got the cat, and I just loved Elton Scooby. That was his name. And I just remember, it would be like I'd get called out to go cover breaking news, and I'd have to leave Elton at home, and I'd be like, Elton's gonna be all alone. And
Yeah.
I just had this deep bond because you're moving across the country, you're single, and so it was just me and my cat, right? Well, and
Yeah.
eventually we added two more cats um, through my TV career. And I always wanted to cover pet stories, and news managers always, I thought, it was probably because,
What year was this when you were moved back and you had your three cats now?
God, this was probably, gosh, 93, 94 was when I
Okay.
started in news.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I never could cover pet stories when I was in news because I got pigeoned as a crime reporter, and so I used to say, "If it bleeds, it leads,"
Yep.
and if
Yeah.
you're dead,
Still.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
All I did was cover dead bodies.
Oh
That's
God.
really what I did, and then
That
now,
takes a toll on your mental health as well, don't you think?
yeah, if anything, like, well, this is really sad, but it's just because I covered so many murders and homicides and everything terrible that, like,
Wow.
I couldn't cover, like, animal abuse when I was in news. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have any trouble doing like a dead. I got to be, I don't know, guess kind of callous.
Well, I
'Cause
think
it
you're
was,
probably numb to it. You had to be to do your job, unfortunately, right?
yeah, it was
Yeah.
just like, oh, like here in Minnesota, it's like, oh, it's spring. Like all the dead bodies are popping up in the
Oh my
Mississippi
god,
River.
that's so terrible. I don't mean to laugh, but,
I know.
like, that's such a far cry from what you do now. So how did
Ex-
you go from that background into what you do now with Whisker Media? I mean, how did you finally
yeah.
say, "I wanna be in the pet industry, enough with this awful news," and covering stuff that I just am not happy doing?
Yeah. So it took a little bit more time. I finally got burned out of news. It was just
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hours. I always got put on the hard news. I always wanted to cover pets, and that was reserved more for the feature reporters and the anchors and stuff.
Yep.
So, I ended up, because I covered so many dead bodies, a lot of the Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, the city of Brooklyn Park. Um, which is like a city, it's a first ring suburb outside of Minneapolis. It's very, very diverse. They asked me to lead their communications, and that was my first foray out of news. So I became
Okay.
the public information officer for the city and the communications
Oh,
manager.
wow.
So that was my first foray into PR. And so I started doing that. And then, but it's government. And, government PR is a little bit different than pet PR, and that
Yeah, a lot different.
real accountability
Yeah.
issues. I was still having to work a lot of odd hours because I was the public information officer for public safety, so fires and more homicides, but from the other side.
Yeah.
Um, so 2 years into it, I finally was like, I want to do something with pets. And it got to be to a situation because of my TV career that a lot of Whisker Media kind of started as a video production company because I was getting a lot of people asking me from different businesses, can you create a video? Can you do our employee engagement videos? And I was getting a lot of other work from government organizations and non-pet businesses.
That's so cool. I didn't even realize that. I know we've spoken in the past. I didn't know that you were doing that as well.
Yeah, so it really started out as video,
Mhm.
but then I realized I really liked PR better, and that's really what I was doing for the city,
Yeah.
strategic messaging, crisis communications. So it transitioned. And when I first started out, Whisker Media was like really, I represented all kinds of businesses, for profit, non-profit, and
Yeah.
government. But then I decided, you know what, I want to give back to cats. I was already volunteering at our local animal shelter and at our local cat rescue. And I was like, my passion is really animals. So how can I marry this? So I was doing government PR, but then that's when I started getting into, I want to do PR in the pet space because I
Yeah.
love doing PR and I love the pet space. And I realized, like, when I was pitching non-pet products, it just didn't jive. It just wasn't. I mean, I always think that you should do your very, very best, but it always helps if you have a really strong connection to the product.
Yeah,
or
100%. I mean, for anybody listening or watching, I did PR for 14 years, mostly in the pet industry, but for hospitality and other things as well. And if you don't believe in the product, love the product, it's so hard to be out. Of course, you're going to do the best. I couldn't take clients that that just didn't excite me.
Yeah,
I had to work with people that I love their products, I love what they were doing, and that excited me to the point where I was always more excited about getting them press. That's what they hired me for, right? I'd be like, "Oh my god, you're gonna be in the news," that kind of
yeah,
thing. So, yeah, you
exactly.
have to feel that passion for it. So, when did you launch the PR part of Whisker Media and really start working with pet industry clients more?
I would say that was about 2018.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, so recently, more recently.
Yeah, and that's when I became fully all pet, and I absolutely love it. And then Dana Humphrey,
Yeah, of course,
we
Dana.
we met at Super Zoo and we hit it off, and she's just really, really fun. And
Yeah,
that
Dana introduced you and I. So, and
yeah,
that's one of the cool things about the pet industry that I've always loved because PR, working in TV, in other industries can be cutthroat, let's be honest, right?
mhm,
But in the pet industry, all of the PR people know each other and help
right,
each other. And it's amazing. I've worked with so many different PR people, referred them to people over the years. We've had the same client because one client was at a show and I was doing their other PR, and I'd be like, "This is who they were in. Don't pitch it to them." Like you really work
yeah,
together. It's a community. It's really incredible. So I love that about it. And so you launched in 2018 and
yeah.
started taking on clients. Oh,
This is this is
so cute.
Fleur, and I just adopted her.
Oh my gosh, so cute. It's a gray kitten for anybody listening. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
she's about 7 months now. She's getting a little chubby.
Oh, she's so cute. She's like the cat version of my dog color-wise. They're both gray. So let me ask you this. You started working, doing all this. Who is the main core of your clientele? I know you have some super famous pet influencers who do incredible work.
Mhm.
Do you also work with products and like retail businesses? Who's the
Yes.
main part of your business?
Yeah, so the for-profit side is I have more for-profits than nonprofits,
Okay.
because just, the nonprofits aren't going to be as, you're not it's not as lucrative as the
Right.
for-profit side.
Yep.
So I represent some really fantastic companies. Boss Nation, Basel Nassar. He started Boss Dog and Boss Cat,
That's
and
awesome. So like pet products
mhm,
and companies, do you also do like pet retail stores or anything else?
I don't do pet retail stores. However, I do work with like some low cost veterinary clinics. So I do represent. Um, so the bulk of my clients are probably pet products, but I
Okay.
have I have a handful of nonprofits that do amazing work that that would probably I'm working indirectly with retailers as well. So I
Okay.
work with like Companions and Animals for Reform and Equity. They are a brand new animal welfare nonprofit, workforce development to their goal is to diversify the animal welfare industry
Love that.
and the pet industry as a whole.
Yeah, that's
um,
awesome.
so they're working on that, and so through them they support a lot of programs, in lower income neighborhoods where
Mm.
there is a lack of veterinary clinics and hospitals. So there's kind of a it's a veterinary desert, so they call
Yeah. Are
it.
they a national organization?
Yep, they're
Oh, that's
national.
wonderful. Good, good. I
Yeah,
love that.
and they work with like Emancipet, so I've done some work with them,
Cool.
who have low income veterinary clinics across the country, and they're starting to move in some of some of the old Banfield sites.
Okay. Interesting. So I have a question for you. While you're working with all these different pet businesses, professionals, nonprofits, some wonderful organizations, I know you use a lot of emotional storytelling, which I think is so timely and important when you're doing any kind of PR. What drew you to that type of PR?
Well, excuse me.
It's okay.
Oh, okay. So basically, when I was a reporter, a lot of what I do in PR really stems from my beginnings in journalism, finding the person affected by the story. So when I'm
Mm,
working with clients, I want to find somebody who has used your product and has seen a difference because of it. You've made a difference in their life because of
yes.
it. So, for example, with gut nutrition products, finding, a dog owner who has a dog that has a lot of intestinal issues or whatever, but you know what? Your product made a difference
Yeah.
in
It's so true. Yeah, and I
Mhm.
feel like a lot of pet businesses, whether they're a pet product, whether they're an influencer, they leave a lot of the story out, right? They don't
They
always
do.
tell the full capacity. I'm always amazed that like I'll talk to somebody and then they'll start to tell me like a side they think it's a side thing for their pet business. And as you know, being a reporter working in PR, you're like, hold the stop the car.
Exactly.
That's the story. And I feel like a lot of pet professionals are nervous about putting the actual part of their story out there. We all have the bio and the about and like the information, but not the actual story behind it. Do you find that to also be true?
Absolutely. Like, tell me, when I work with a client, I want to find their background story. How did you come up with this product?
Yeah.
And a lot of times it's a really fascinating story. And some of my what I do is I believe in promoting the founder or the owner of the business,
Agreed.
because that's the story. Even
Yes.
if it's a pet product,
Hmm.
I had a client who just got so tired of cleaning litter boxes. So she created a disposable sifting system, and it took years for her to develop it, but she finally did, and it's now in PetSmart and Petco
Who
and
is that? That's so cool.
Kitty Sift, Carrie Van
Oh
Wyck.
yeah, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, and so they all have these. Or Basel, he's got a fascinating story because he's a serial entrepreneur. He's was one of the founders of Greek Gods yogurt, the whole
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then when
That story is incredible.
yeah, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, he gets this dog Kelby. Kelby has just won't eat and has all these gut issues. So he created this goat's milk and Greek yogurt for his dog, and that's ultimately what became the product. And so, you've got to find that angle. You've got to find that story in everything that you're selling because that's what people want.
Yeah, absolutely. My dog, we had a couple of bags of the boss dog, the little rolled up, I don't know if they're like meatballs, whatever. My dog was going
Yes.
crazy for them. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Recently, like within the last month. So I know exactly. I heard that whole story. I was blown away by one of his employees was explaining that story. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And he did not need to start a business based on
No,
his background.
you
He's
know,
super successful.
I think Boss Nation, which is made up of Boss Cat and Boss Dog. That's just a labor of love for him, and
Yeah.
that's what's so fantastic. Like I love people that are so passionate, and that's one thing about working with you know smaller and mid-sized companies. You get a
Yeah.
lot more passion when you're dealing with them, and I really really like that because that gives me more. Um, it excites me, it incites my passions for pets, and so
Yeah.
I feel like I can really deliver then.
Yeah, it makes your writing of the press releases, your pitches, all the things more exciting. And I
Yeah,
know the media can feel that because I'm on the other end of it as well because I've written for so
yeah,
many magazines for so many years. So I get pitches all the time. And a lot of times you're kind of glazed over because it's the same type of pitch. But when you get that pitch from that person that's writing it is excited, you can see that right in the email or in the press release. So it's super important for pet businesses or anybody listening, don't hold back on your story. So let me ask you this. What is one tip that you would tell pet business owners, whether they're products or whatever area of the business they're in, the importance of PR when it comes to their pet business?
there's nothing better than somebody else saying nice things about your product. There is
Yeah.
nothing better. I mean, I don't think paid media can um eh,
Oh,
because nowadays if you look at like influencer marketing, that's based on somebody else telling people, "Oh, I really, really like this product." But what I like about, especially with the general media, is that um, they have standards, right? They have ethical
yeah.
standards. They don't want to sell. That their purpose is, and they will take. They can read a sales pitch from a mile away, right?
Exactly.
But if you can get them to report on your story, and it's basically not a sales pitch, oh my gosh, it's worth gold.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing better. You can get out there and you can buy every ad out there and say I'm great and everything, and that is important too. Don't get me wrong. The
Right.
marketing side is critical, but there is nothing better than having somebody that you don't know and that you didn't pay
Yeah.
say nice things about you or your product.
Yeah, and for that person to get that pitch from a PR person and then be like, "Wow, I didn't even know this existed. We're so excited." And being in the shoes that you wanted to be in as a reporter reporting on pet products. I will say I feel like the industry and PR for the pet world has come a long way since when I started. You could barely get them to write about anything or talk about anything pet business or product related. It was about, either a horror story or the wonderful nonprofits, which of course was great. But I was like, there's so much more to the industry.
Yeah.
And the media was not getting it. Of course, now they are, which is wonderful for our pet industry overall. And I always think for the pet parents and for the pets themselves.
Yeah, what's interesting, Nancy, is I was talking to a producer here in Minneapolis at one of the local TV stations, and they said our ratings go up by 20% when people see anything dealing with an animal.
1,000%. I could totally see that. That's amazing.
And that's also like commercials and
Yeah.
news content. And so if you have a story, the other thing that I like to do, Nancy, is I like to mix um, like my nonprofit with my for-profit clients
Yeah.
and have them support each other.
Wonderful.
Or not even my clients, but I always suggest that's part of my mission is to give back. So I really make a special effort to represent companies that kind of have a similar mission to mine and just want to make the world a more humane place for animals.
Yeah. I
That's
love that you do that. That's so important. The cross promoting of each other, helping build each other up is so, so important in this industry. And I
yep,
think we do that overall, but somebody showing up with their new product may not be thinking initially, how can I help other organizations that are, with us or in our same
exactly.
community? What has been the toughest thing in coaching? Because as a PR client, a person, you become a coach no matter even if you don't want to. What is the toughest thing would you say because when you're coaching somebody, one of your clients, like what is the most pushback they give you?
My one of my biggest concerns is, and I'm really crystal clear, especially when I take on a new client, is their expectations.
Oh yeah.
How many times have I heard, what, I really want to get my product on the Today Show or Good
Hmm.
Morning America or one of the big network shows. And I'm like, well, what do you got?
Yeah, exactly. Sound like
and,
me.
and they're like, oh, I've got a new catnip for cats. Well, that's not what's newsworthy about
Oh my
it.
God, you and me are such kindred spirits. Those are the same things I would say back. Yep.
Yeah. And so, it is fantastic to try to get national coverage, and it does work, but you
Yep.
have to have the right story. And I also think that as a PR person, we are also only as good as what we have to work with. So it's really
Mm,
important, if you're looking to hire a PR firm, you have to have plenty of things to offer us, or at
mhm.
least be really open with your story and what you're doing, so that it's our job as PR professionals to think, what's going to work, but we need content, right, Nancy? we
Yeah.
need we need them to feed us stuff. We can't just make stuff up, although occasionally I think I probably have. And
Yeah, it's true, and I think, and piggybacking on that, I think also as a pet business owner, product, whatever, whoever's looking for PR is to listen to the PR professional because a lot of times, like you'll get some pushback, or like you were saying, you need something to work with in order. What's newsworthy about getting you on the Today Show or Oprah? People used to ask me that. I'm like,
yeah,
okay, well, so what are you doing that's going to get why is Oprah going to want to feature you, or why is it today's so
exactly.
I think, be open to being a little bit vulnerable with your PR person and really digging in and
Yep.
finding out like what is going to work. And you've been doing this for so many years. You were in the media, like you understand every aspect. You're on both sides. So I think that's important to listen to because
Hmm.
um and when to hold back, I think, right? Don't because people are like they hire a PR person and they're like, okay, when are we going to be in the paper next week? Are we going to be
Yeah.
in the magazine next week? It's like the expectations, like you said, is so true.
Yeah, I had a client who hired me on a Tuesday, and she said, "Do you think I could be at Good Morning America on Friday with my new product?"
Oh my gosh.
Mm,
No,
yes.
probably not.
And one thing too, Nancy, like a lot of these big, the big national news shows, they're now pay for play. You
Yes,
know,
a lot of them are.
like it's getting on the third hour of the Today Show. Those people are paying for those now.
Yeah,
It's the lines between journalism and infomercials. It's a little bit, uh,
blurred for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, and I think the education of that is also important on teaching, up and coming clients like the differences between that because they don't necessarily always get it. And some people do right away, but so what has been your personal biggest hurdle so far working in PR in the pet industry? Has there been any?
I would say, for sure, is expectations is a huge thing, and there's also there's a lack of understanding what PR is,
Yeah,
and the difference between PR and marketing. I
yeah.
think people don't realize that.
Mhm.
Another hurdle is, as a PR person, we're working our tails off pitching and trying to get hits on local media, national media,
Everything.
regional
Yeah.
media. And then, I'll tell my client, okay, I got you an interview, but their person's deadline is 5 o'clock today. And so having people realize like the deadlines that the media are under, especially now in
Yeah.
these 24-hour news cycles, I
Yeah.
think that's something. Um, so, it's really getting people to understand, you know,
Yeah, it's so true. Like, I used to say to my clients, if I knew they were gonna be in an interview on TV or something, I would call them or text them, "Call me right now." Somebody's calling you on your cell phone, answer it, because they may not answer their phone if they don't recognize the phone number, right? So,
yes.
like, they're gonna call you in, like, 10 minutes or whatever. So, yeah, that you're always on too doing PR. So, I agree.
Right.
I've always said working your tails off. PR is a ton of work.
Mhm.
And, I think that a lot of people don't realize how much work it is. And, some people would say to me, "Oh, well, what's the size of your media list?" And I'm like, "Well, I could tell you the size, but it's really the relationship and my proof of work that I've had."
Exactly.
You know? I haven't done PR since the end of 2018. That's when I stopped.
Ah,
And I did it for 14 years. I loved it, but I still have the media contacting me. Like literally New York City news stations will call me like a couple of times a quarter looking for a pet professional. And fortunately now I just send them a member or two that might be fitting for a story, but
yeah.
it's just kind of crazy because I haven't done it in so long. So what is your next venture with Whisker Media,
Um, well, so
or
I'm
future plans, I should say? Yep.
my future plans is I really love what I do. Like for the first time in my
Oh, that's awesome.
career, I'm doing what I love. And a big part of my company is giving back some of the profits to cat rescues. Um,
Love that.
so while I am running Whisker Media, I represent influencers too. Um,
Yeah.
and so Sterling Trapking Davis, who you know,
Yes,
the
I love him. He's so awesome.
yeah. So I am currently assisting him with getting his nonprofit in order. So that's kind of been our big Whisker Media and his nonprofit are kind of linked right now.
Oh,
But
nice.
I'm trying to separate him more.
Okay.
So it's a fully, he has his 501(c)(3) status. We put together a board. That's a lot of work.
Oh my gosh, yes, that's awesome though.
So I'm trying to do that. And then, he has a lot of pet product companies and brands who want to work with him. And
I'm
so
sure.
um, that's been a big part of trying to determine like who we want to work with. Does it work with his mission? A dog company coming to us, that's another thing. Really research who you
Oh my gosh, yes. Please say it louder.
yes, because Sterling has had some pitches from some companies that are non-pet related or are not cat related, and it has like, will you pitch our dog biscuits? Well, no, because he's cats and he really is focused on feral cats, and
Yeah, look
dog
at what he
bis-
does. Oh
yeah,
my god, yeah.
exactly. And so I'm kind of focused on helping him as well, but my overall mission is to just, I love all animals. I have a dog and cats, but I really am trying to raise the bar when it comes to considering cats as right now they're considered second class pets,
Yeah.
and unfortunately in the pet industry, everything's geared towards dogs. And I get it because that's where the money is. But I really hope, and I'm really also wanting to promote like cat ownership and just I love like innovation in the cat space.
Yeah,
Um,
honestly, it's been so amazing to see in like the last 5 or 6
yes,
years, the innovation in the cat space, the products that have been coming out, some of the veterinarians that have created products. It's really mind-blowing to me because you didn't see that 5, 6
yeah,
years ago. You would see cat products, of course, there's, companies we all know that have wonderful products, but just seeing these new entrepreneurs, it's really exciting for the space.
yeah. It's amazing, and that's one thing about going to the trade shows and just seeing some of these amazing inventions.
Yeah.
There's I was even at CatCon which
Oh, that looked like so much fun. I wish I could have gone to that.
it was a lot of fun. And I should tell you, if you're a cat manufacturer product company, I think you should show there. I mean, there were like 150 exhibitors,
Wow.
and I saw some amazing stuff. And there was a lot of like cat craft booths there, and just the cutest cat things you'd ever see.
Yeah, yeah.
But there were several large cat companies there and smaller ones too, and everybody thought it was pretty successful.
Yeah, it looked like it. They had a good crowd there and everything. Looked
Yeah.
like a lot of fun. We were talking about that on our last episode, and we were talking about New York City used to have a cat con. It wasn't called that. I think it was called Cat Camp. And I went and I was like, I'm gonna go for like an hour. I didn't really, it was the first time I went. I was there for like 4 hours laughing my butt off at some of the funniest cat um oh god, what's the word? I'm blanking on the word, but just some of the funniest cat sayings and then meeting
Yeah.
some incredible entrepreneurs, pet entrepreneurs, seeing products that I'd never seen. And I just was like, I can't believe I've been here for 4 hours. I hope they bring it back. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think it's really cool that you're focusing on that for with Whisker Media. It makes a lot of sense, right? With what your passions are.
Yeah.
Um, let me ask you this. What would you tell somebody that's watching that is wanting to do PR and wants to come into the pet industry? What would be your piece of advice you would give them?
I would say, um, always have an open mind and be really flexible and be prepared to hustle. Because
Yeah,
I mean, that's kind of going for um, PR in general, but
right.
I feel the pet industry is just changing so quickly. I mean, look how fast it's growing.
Yeah,
It started out with, I feel like, a smaller group of people, but now as more and more people own pets, it's just expanded, and more people are starting to come into the pet industry. And they're bringing new innovations and ideas, and don't ever just think that there's one way of doing things. Even, I feel like the media is constantly changing. I mean,
yep,
these reporters now, not only do they have to do their regular story assignments, but they're required to post on social media. If they're covering like court cases and stuff, they have to tweet so many times. And
yeah,
so I would also say, one thing I try to do is make it as easy as possible for the journalist to cover your story.
yes,
So like when I talk about storytelling, I always tell my clients, we got to find the real person. The real person needs to be doing the talking. So have those real people, have the people that support your product. They should be ready. Before I pitch the story, I make sure all the interviewees are ready to go.
yeah,
And find the journalist, the real story, who has the emotional story.
yeah. Because that's what's going to pull at the heartstrings and people to really hone in on what you're doing. That's such wonderful and excellent advice. And if anybody's listening, I'm shaking my head like crazy, agreeing with you. So, what has been the most fun that you've had in the pet industry so far or lately?
I just feel so I've been to a lot of trade shows, but I feel like at Global Pet and Super Zoo, there's a different level of excitement and passion. So
Yeah,
I've heard like you know uh, babies and children too kind of evoke the same thing. But when you talk to anybody in the pet space, especially when you talk to the vendors and you're at Global, or and you're with thousands and thousands of people, there's like this weird energy and this
yeah,
automatic bond that you have with the other person,
yep,
because you're immediately talking about, oh, what kind of pets do you have? Oh, I have a golden retriever too. Here's mine. Look at Fluffy.
yeah.
You know, and
It's so true.
and so I was walking around the shows, and I always hear this, and it doesn't matter if it's like like a serious business transaction, people are still ultimately talking about their pets.
Yep. Isn't that the best thing? You can be having a super serious business conversation, and something will come up about your own pet, your dog, your cat, your fish,
Yes,
whatever you have, and the phones come out. Everybody's showing photos. It's really so heartwarming, and
it's
I think
amazing.
yeah, I think that's so true because it really bonds us. And, I like to write down if I meet somebody that has a similar dog or what type of cat or whatever on their business card. So when I follow up with them, I'm like, hey, we were talking about your dog Fluffy. And they're like, whoa, because that's what
Oh,
they want to hear about, right? That's one of the problems we have with our networking events. I'm a little bit strict and like, guys, we can't talk about our dogs and cats all day long because we're not actually going to get to business. We can have another conversation about that on another day. It's so true because we'll just spend like 3 hours talking about our pets, right? Which is great.
exactly. Yeah, but there is an in the pet industry, there's an automatic bond, and no, it doesn't matter what you look like or what race
Yep.
you are. The animal is bringing people closer together.
Yeah, I love that. It's so
Yeah.
true. So, what is the best piece of advice you have received in running your business?
You know, I used to think it was all about getting as many clients as possible, but it's not. It's about finding the right mix, um, finding the income level that is really comfortable for you. You don't have to be a big multinational agency.
Right.
You should do what's right for you and find the clients that work with your personality and your passion the best.
That's awesome. I love that. It's so true. And I feel like that transcends no matter if you're doing PR or whatever your business is, if you're
Mhm.
doing a, business service for other business owners. It's so true. So
Ex
what is your daily non-negotiable that keeps you as a person grounded as a business owner?
Exercise.
Oh, I love that.
Um, I apologize, I'm getting
That's
over it.
okay.
Um, if I don't exercise, I feel a level of stress
Yeah.
because as you know, as entrepreneurs, you work harder than you would ever do working
Yeah.
for somebody else. And so I feel like I could be sitting at this desk all day long, but my body needs a break. And if you don't take care of your body, it's going to break down eventually. And
Yeah.
then what happens to your business? So it's really
Exactly.
important to exercise, and like I take a walk every day, and I'm currently trying to work with one of my cats to be a therapy cat.
Oh, wow. That's so awesome.
So working on taking walks and different things. So I'm out with him. But yeah, I think exercise and taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
the most important thing for any business owner first.
It's so true because we can sit on our screens, on our computers, on our phones all day long. So I love that. Mine is getting out with my dog in the woods somewhere, usually
Yes.
every single day, couple-mile walk, clears your head, and good for the dog, good for you. My dog will stare at me if I'm on the computer too long. He'll just come sit right next to me and stare. I'm like, okay, time to go for a walk.
I'm reading this really great book called Feel Better in 5, and it's just like 5 minutes of doing something to better your life.
Wow.
And it doesn't take long, and it's about developing the habit and getting outside, starting just take a little walk for 5 minutes
Yeah.
and come back in, and then you know what? You feel kind of refreshed when you're back at your computer.
Yeah,
We're all just
absolutely.
sitting here, and a lot of us now work from home.
Mhm. Yep, definitely. It's so true. That's interesting. I'll have to check that book out.
Yeah.
So, is there anything that I didn't ask you about Whisker Media and what you're doing, moving forward towards that you want to share with us? I
I
love
just
the cat. I'm sorry. I just love your cats meowing in the background.
oh, they are, yes, that's Farley. Um, I think, it's really important, as a business owner to like it's not just about selling a product, and I believe in there's should be a level of philanthropy as well,
Yeah,
because giving back will always make you feel better. And so if it also says a lot about your company and your mission, and I mean you don't want to give away your profits, but I do believe
right.
that there should be a philanthropic mission with every pet business out there, especially since there are millions and millions of animals that still need help. And
I know.
I just think it's a wonderful thing if the pet industry can really assist the animal welfare side of things. Because I know, and um, I work with a lot of cat rescuers, and they have so much compassion fatigue.
Yeah, it's true.
And they're working for no money, and they don't have any money oftentimes. And so if the pet industry would help these people with just, maybe giving cat food to like the cat rescuers who are trying to spay and neuter feral cats in New York City, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Because these people are working, they all work full-time jobs, and they spend all their money on cat food and dog food. And then, the problem of pet overpopulation is just getting better and better in the US. I mean, so many far fewer pets now are getting euthanized in shelters. But then I was in Greece, and I mean, there's 2 million feral cats just in Athens. And in Thailand, it's even worse. And
wow.
the animals in Ukraine. And I think the
Yeah,
food industry as a whole has a responsibility to also help that side of things. And it doesn't have to be a lot, maybe in kind donations, especially maybe your expired product, that sort of.
yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I was just looking at the email, I think it was today or yesterday, from Pet Business Professor, and he's been writing about the petflation and how much inflation has gone up from 2021 to this year, something like 30%, and that was mostly like pet food. And my immediate thought went to the animal rescues. And I know like shelters definitely get a lot of donations, but some of the smaller rescues don't. And I was thinking, how can we as an industry, like you said, the pet products manufacturers that, make treats and food and all of that, because as influencers, they'll send the influencer stuff, but how can we figure out, another way to make it better for those people that they're never having to say, hey guys, we're out of food, we have no cat food, because I see that often with a lot of our rescue friends. And so for anybody listening or watching, that's just some food for thought, pun intended, because it's true. I mean, I think our industry does a great job in giving back, but I definitely think there's
Yes,
still so much need around the world, even locally, where our euthanasia rate is getting better, but there's still so many pets that need homes. So, and need
exactly.
help. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pet industry is pretty. If the pet industry banded together, they could really do so much good
Yeah.
um, in helping just animals in general. So,
Well, we'll leave it at that. I love that ending and that you brought that up because you didn't talk about yourself. You talked about how to do good, right? So when I asked you if there was anything else you wanted to share, so I really appreciate that. So, Mary, how can people connect with you who are watching?
yeah, the best way to reach out to me is you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or the Whisker Media Facebook page. I need to do a better job with my social media. I'm so busy dealing with other people's that I don't do as much on mine. And then my email is really easy. It's just mary@whiskermedia.com.
Awesome. And we'll put all those links in the comment section. And maybe you need to hire somebody for your social media, make
I
your
do.
life a little easier.
I do,
Well,
definitely.
I really appreciate you being here and all that you're doing. I find everything that you're doing super exciting and
Thank
fun.
you.
And I really hope that anybody that's watching, you reach out to Mary if you have questions about PR and are interested in working with her. And our next show is going to be back in November for digging into the pet industry. So, Mary, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Nancy. This is so much fun.
It
And
was.
the pet industry is just amazing. I just love it.
I love it. I love it. Somebody just wrote good stuff. Oh, from Mr. Schwartz, of course.
Pretty.
All right, Mary, thank you for being here. Thanks for everybody for watching. And we'll see you back here live in November for our next episode of Digging into the Pet Industry. Take care, everybody.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good day.